we would have lost history. A major part of Fort Wayne history would be eliminated if this were knocked down today.
I can enjoy the elegance and the high quality of an experience of coming to the embassy because of those people who came before me and decided I shouldn't miss that sort of experience, and I am very grateful for that.
In a time when entertainment was something you dressed up for and went out to see, it was a palace where people came to experience what Americans were seeing and hearing in theaters across the country. The remarkable effort to preserve the embassy started in the late 60s. It became as much a part of Fort Wayne history as it is an American story of cultural preservation. It was a tireless effort, rooted in the desire to keep what was once magical still alive.
It was part of the scene to once a week get dressed up and take your wife to the Embassy Theater to see a movie, see a stage show, listen to the house orchestra, and escape into Wonderland.
They want to take their girlfriend, impress them. They come to a big theater like this.
Emerging from Fort Wayne's building boom of the 1920s, no structure would rival the giant chateau cast by what was originally christened the M. Boyd Theater after showman Clyde Quimby's mother, Emily Boyd. And no event would compare to the anticipation of its gala opening in the spring of 1928.
When it first opened, it was a movie vaudeville house. You had a house orchestra, you had 6 acts of vaudeville, and you had a movie starring Nancy Carroll and Richard Dix, who were major stars at the time. That's how it opened. That was the opening night. I think there was an Oriental tumbling act also on the bill. Burt Lancaster, he played here in what was called a Risley Act, which he did hand-to-hand tumbling with his partner Nick. And he was probably here 2 years before he made his Broadway debut, and from Broadway he went to Hollywood and became a major star.
Outside, the majestic marquee lit up the sky and trumpeted the most popular films and stage performers of the day. Inside, patrons marveled at the theater's splendor, opulence, and acoustics, boasting new standards of luxury, comfort, and entertainment experience.
And in those days, they built these beautiful, beautiful theaters like this.
And it was something new. People kind of liked to see that. That was something they had never seen before. Most of them were built like this.
If Clyde Quimby is acknowledged as the M. Boyd's visionary genius, then few would argue that Bud Berger, the theater's first stage manager, was its heart and soul.
Bud always felt that this was his home. The Embassy Theater was his home.
He had a real love of this place, had collections of autographed photos of the now famous people and some who are probably unknown who played here.
If you look at these books, you'll see the name of everybody who was in every single show, as well as the road manager, the producer. He would judge people and could spot talent. He mentioned Doris Day, that she was going to become a major star.
Bud was well known among the entertainers that toured and played this place because he was so incredibly helpful to them in providing whatever they needed.
He was everybody's friend, but he went beyond the call of duty. He really did. He made sure everybody was comfortable. He'd find out what the star needed in their dressing room. Bill Robinson, for instance, who was a wonderful tap dancer, made a lot of pictures with Shirley Temple. When he came in, he wanted white sheets hung on his dressing room because he had to think about cleanliness. The whole dressing room had to be scrubbed. Bud would make sure that was done. He would make sure all those sheets were hung. And so when Bill Robinson came in, it would be exactly as he expected to find it.
By the time vaudeville had come and gone and the silent film era passed, the Great Depression turned movie houses into sanctuaries of escape for audiences during troubled times. When the world went to war, the M. Boyd responded to the call of duty.
We had big war bond rallies in this theater. We had a war bond booth outside selling war bonds to help the government conduct the war and pay for all the artillery. And then it hit a slump about the early 1950s, right after Second World War. And this when a lot of movie theaters began closing.
Hard times fell upon the house of a million dreams, and when ownership changed hands, a newly refurbished theater emerged, renamed the Embassy, and poised to satisfy audience demands. The Embassy's new era would be marked by a constant from its past, the pipe organ that would signal the beginning of another magical evening. By 1960, the organ, in desperate need of repairs, received a return visit from Buddy Nolan, one of the theater's most popular organists.
He would always stop in the Embassy, check to make sure that the organ was still here, and play it a bit on one of his annual visits to Fort Wayne from California. We all became good friends and committed to the idea of getting the organ to play again. As a consequence, Bud was playing for intermissions. At that time, the theater was still a first-run movie house, and on weekends he would play between the feature shows. That generated a great deal of interest, and enough that Bud thought it was worth trying to see if we could do some midnight concerts. And the first one of those, I remember Bud was pacing the floor, hoping maybe there would be an audience, and the stagehands who were so supportive at that time kept telling him, "Bud, they're lined up around the corner of the building." And I think that was the first indication of what was going to happen with the community and its interest in not just the organ, but eventually in this entire place. I had been in Fort Wayne all my life and seen what was happening in the 60s as they got into what was called urban renewal, which meant literally tearing down lots of blocks of things and losing large pieces of history.
I pretty much knew that the theater was going down as by patterns of hundreds of other theaters that went down and out throughout the country.
At stake, not just a building in decay, but a cherished jewel from Fort Wayne's past.